morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching from. I hope you are doing great and welcome to another amazing episode. This week again, Nelly and I we're going to be diving into an interesting topic this week. Last week we started the discussion. This week we are continuing on the discussion. So I am so happy that you're here watching, whether you're watching live or you're going to be watching after. You are so welcome. And for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Peggy Barre, and I am the survivor empowerment coach. I'm also a domestic abuse practitioner and the founder of Arise and Thrive Academy, where we inspire, empower women to heal, to rebuild, and to become confident and resilient parents. I'm going to pass you now to Nelly to introduce herself, and then we can dive in. Over to you, Nelly.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another session. I am called Nelly Kwasunwi, a social worker, transformational life coach, and the founder or one of the directors of Hand in Hand Community CIC, where we work with families to promote family unity, and our focus is mental health and emotional well-being, because we know in our community that's a topic that we don't talk about, but yet we all experience loads of emotions in a day. So we work at raising awareness to reduce the stigma so then people can freely talk about mental health, emotional well-being, and get the help they need earlier than later when they're experiencing crisis. So for our session today, it is a continuation of last session, like Peggy talked about, and it's about how to build your confidence after a difficult relationship breakdown or divorce. So that's what we are going to dive in today.
Absolutely. I'm so excited about this topic today because Nelly and I have been through it. Yes, we are not ashamed to say we've been through it. We've gone through the journey. We've gone through the pain. We've gone through everything that you can talk about when it comes to this particular topic. And the reason why we said we're going to talk about it because it is something that we struggle with. And just like Nelly said, especially about mental health, is something that it affects us mentally, and we kind of hide behind it, or we disguise it. I always say relationship is a beautiful thing. It was a gift that was given to from a creator to mankind. And sometimes we get into a relationship. We don't go into a relationship with the premeditative intention that relationship is going to break down. No, we go into a relationship knowing that we're going in there for love. We're going there for everything that we can think of, and we want the relationship to be a loving, lasting, fulfilling relationship. But like I always say, life happens. Things will happen. It might be our choices. We make certain choices. And unfortunately, when we make some certain choices, it affects us. The consequences of those choices are also painful. So when it happens and things are no longer working, where do we start from? This is why it is very important that when it happens, the aftermath of that breakup in relationship, the aftermath of that, whether it's a divorce or it's a separation, that aftermath is very, very important, because it is going to either make us or break us. And guess what? It's not just going to be our children, about us. It's also going to either make our children or break our children. So the way we deal with it is very, very important. And that is why we said, you know what, we're going to talk about it today, because I've seen, and I'm sure Nelly as well have seen, a lot of parents within the community that are struggling from the aftermath of breakup or separation or divorce. And it is not good. So we need to talk about it. So hopefully You're going to learn some one or two nuggets today from our experience. We're just going to be raw, and so that we know that at least it can help you, to navigate that journey. So yeah, Nelly, I don't know whether I wanted to add a little bit
And
on that before we start.
yeah, I think not only adults will benefit from some of this session today, because we know our children, they have their own kind of relationships. And let's not forget about the emotional impact and psychological as well that our children go through. So if us as the adults don't develop the better strategy to deal with our breakups, it affects our children as well. And it is worse because our children have their own, especially, let me talk about teenagers. Like teenagers, they have their own struggles and challenges that they are trying to deal with. And considering that age, they don't know who they are. They have not yet developed their identity. So if they're in a household where the parent or the adults have gone through a relationship breakup and they are struggling to manage with those emotions, imagine the impact it will be on children. Because as teenagers, they will always blame themselves that because they'll always blame themselves that it is because of them that the relationship ended and things like that, because they don't have a full understanding of what is going on. So this is really, really important that we talk about it so that our children will learn from us when we have gone through or develop healthy ways of dealing with the breakups, especially with our confidence, because it is commonly said that fake it until you make it. But there are certain ones that you cannot really fake it. So it's to
Mhm.
put in the work to heal. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to add.
Absolutely. And Nelly, we've been talking about, in the other session when we talk about children, our children, their safety. If you want to
Mm.
look at that safeguarding, it's all about safeguarding children. If you want to look at the underlying what we've been discussing, it's all about how confident are we as parents to raise up our children in such a way that we build a holistic support of a holistic network of relationship, being confident in those relationships so that we know that we can be confident as parents, we can be confident in ourselves, as well as being able to teach our children to be confident, as well as being able to defend our children or defend ourselves wherever we find ourselves in terms of social services. So this is why I've seen many people, if not many people, Nelly, I'll go back to myself as I shared last time. I don't know whether let me just say this before you go on your first point, because we're going to just go straight into the steps on how to rebuild your confidence. Um, as I write in my book, one of the things that when you come out of that difficult relationship, first of all, you are struggling to first of all go through that acceptance stage, that moment where that relationship have broken down, and then you are still in the denial. You like, oh my God, I cannot believe that a relationship of so and so years, you know, it's gone. You kind of go through that cycle of that denial cycle, and that cycle itself is so torturing. So again, it is that moment where if we don't come to the consciousness, for me it was that consciousness first where I said, you know what, I had had enough of this, or maybe enough of that thought, and we're going to be talking about it later on. Is that moment of saying, you know what, this is where I find myself. I am not going to tolerate this emotion that I'm going through anymore. And that is where that journey of healing, of rebuilding your self-confidence start. But before me diving into it, Nelly has got some pointers that we're going to be using to talk about. Nelly, so Nelly, over to you. What is the first
Okay, thank
point?
you so much for that. So, today the focus is on building or rebuilding confidence. The first point we'll talk about is allow space for healing. So, I just want to talk about that because I've seen in so many cases that when there is a relationship breakdown, it is very common to jump into the next relationship, probably in a matter of days, weeks, without really learning the lessons from the previous relationship. So then what happens is you get into that relationship, is really nice initially, but before you know it, within a few weeks or few days, it goes sour. You don't want to see the person that you felt that you were so much in love with. And you start reflecting and relating to the previous relationship. Why is that? And it's very, very common. So the reason is you haven't given yourself the space to heal
Mhm.
and to learn from the mistakes. Because whether you like it or not, in every relationship, you have a contributory factor.
Yeah.
For instance, if, say, you are being abused, it's because you allowed yourself to be abused. So that is a part you played in it. Because if
Mhm.
from the first moment you notice a red flag, you could have given yourself that distance to say, you know what, I have noticed this red flag. But how many times do we keep giving excuses for the other person's red flag? We'll give it for years and years and years. So
Mhm.
red flags are always there from the very beginning. But when we, I know Peggy talked about denial, but it was in a different aspects, but a different aspect, but it's related to this point because we see the red flags and we are like, no, I'm sure they will change, time will heal, we are still to know each other and things like that. So to take a different stance when you break up from a relationship, give yourself space to heal because those
Mhm.
emotions that you are experiencing are still raw. And in addition to that, there are some three aspects that really hold people down. One,
Mhm.
you have the shame that, oh, I've been in this relationship for how many years? Probably I've got children, I've known the families, and so on. There's that shame that how will they judge you and things like that. The second one is
Mhm.
the guilt that you'll be feeling that, oh, probably I've let the other person down, I've let my children down, and things like that. And the third is regret.
Mhm.
So these three aspects, shame, guilt, and regret, they hold people back from making the changes that they need to make in their lives. So I'll hand that over to you before I come back to this point, Peggy.
Yeah, when you were talking earlier, I was just like, do you, I always say those key emotions, those four emotions you mentioned are a key. I would say that for me, when I came out of the relationship, again, like I said, that moment of crying and crying and feeling pity, having my pity party. Sometimes I don't even have a shower. Sometimes I don't even eat. I take my kid, go drop them in school. When I come back, I just sit and I cry and cry and cry and cry. And then going through the emotion of maybe trying to, you're struggling to even explain yourself. People are calling and asking. So that emotion is like a torturing period, like a period of torture that you go through. So for me, when I realized that I was going through down a hill, I was going down a slope that I did not want. That slope that I was taking was very, very dangerous, not just for my health, it was dangerous for my children because every day they came back and saw me in pool of tears. I think they were not feeling okay. That is when they started feeling like, maybe it's their fault. So for me, I needed to do something, not if not for me, but for my children. I needed to pull myself together. Yes, I was going through that guilt, as Nelly said. When you're asking question, but what did I do wrong? What I should have done this or I should have done that, and all of that. And the most important thing is that when we come out of that situation, the most important element for us is not to blame ourselves. It's more like we need to go deep into the situation that happened because, like Nelly said, it takes two to tango. We are not perfect beings. There are certain things that maybe we said something, we did something, maybe we did not do something, or whatever. I always say, when you focus the lens on yourself, that is the important aspect of you to heal faster. Because you are focusing the lens on yourself and saying that, hang on, maybe I was so naive, or maybe I was so passive, or maybe I wasn't alert enough to actually to have spotted these red flags. Because if I was assertive or confident enough, I would have said no to this behavior or no to that behavior. But because maybe I was so passive, I wasn't confident enough. So again, it's about looking back into ourselves and saying that, what is it that I have learned from this relationship, and what are the lessons that I'm taking forward? When you think that way, it empowers you. Because for me, that was a moment of empowering me to say, okay, now I'm going to move forward. I'm not going to cry any longer. I'm going to wipe my tears. I'm going to move forward. Anything that I did not know in my development, in my growth journey, I'm going to learn those things. Maybe I did not know how to communicate. I'm going to learn how to communicate. Maybe I wasn't assertive. I'm going to learn how to be assertive. So that for me, and Nelly, was that in igniting consciousness, as I write in my book. That was the first step. I ignited consciousness of who I was at that time. What were my weaknesses? What were my strengths? I hung on to my strength, and then I improved. I worked on my weaknesses, which today I'm a better person. And I always say that what I know today, maybe if I knew before my relationship, maybe there are certain things that I wouldn't have tolerated, and maybe things would have just been different. Who knows? So for me, it was that igniting consciousness. And like Nelly say, when we ignite consciousness, that is when we start dealing with our emotions, start dealing with the guilt, dealing with the rejection, dealing with whatever thing we are feeling, because that is not who we are. That is not who we are. We need to make sure we embrace a more empowering belief about ourselves. So for me, that was a starting point of my journey to becoming a confident me. So yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, Nelly.
Yeah, I mean, in igniting consciousness, that is massive, because
Yeah,
it contradicts the denial. It's the opposite of denial. So
yeah,
it takes a lot of courage for you to come to acceptance,
yeah.
to identify that, and to ignite consciousness, because without that, you are not going to make any changes.
No.
Because we are all emotional beings, people cling on to the emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And when we cling on to emotions, you see people become very reactive.
Yeah.
We want to stay in the abusive relationships because we are scared. Oh, my friends will say that. Oh, my family will say that. Oh, I'll no longer be called married, and things like that. So those are the emotional attachments that we
Mm-hmm.
hang ourselves onto. But when you look at statistics, people, one of the couples have lost their lives because they want to be in certain relationships, unfortunately. Though
Mm-hmm.
in our community, the Afro-Caribbean community, those of us who have left our marriages, it's not like we were happy to leave the marriages, but it was because of the experiences that we had, which we realized that it will disrupt our development and our children, and we've left. It's not that we like to leave, but when we know that things are at stake, our lives are at stake, it's better to forego that relationship. Because if you stay in the relationship and your life is ended because of the relationship, who benefits? Who loses? If you are killed in a relationship, which we've seen so many cases, your
Yeah.
children will suffer. You have a family, your immediate family will suffer as well. So those are the
Mm-hmm.
things you need to take into consideration, and take time
Yeah.
to gain that consciousness that
Yeah.
there is a better you. You can do
Yeah.
things better. I
Yeah.
think we have a comment on the screen from Emmeline, which I think, do you want to read that or you want me to read it,
Yeah,
Peggy?
so Emmeline said, and that what she said is so crucial. She said, what is most important, we need to unlearn what we learn about a woman's role. And I can put my hands up to say, yes, that is so true. Because he said, a woman, we need to unlearn what we learn about a woman's role in a relationship. We are taught to endure to be termed good women. And that is so true. We go into, and one thing that I always say, Nelly, and I tell my daughter today, one thing I tell my daughter today is like, you know what? Everything that even my own parents did not teach me, I went into relationship with no without a clue of what relationship was all about, or even maybe what marriage was all about, or the little that I knew about women's role in a relationship was more about submissive. And I submissiveness, and I I I I thought that being submissive is losing your voice, or being submissive is losing your identity, or being submissive is think about all the things that you can think of. So that is what these are some of the beliefs that we come with in a relationship, that we feel that, oh, if I'm submissive, then that means I'm a good wife. Or you're being submissive even to your in-laws, that whatever thing they say, don't respond. Then trample on your feeling, you don't respond. The man or the woman tramples on your feeling, you don't respond. In that way, you're being submissive, and in that way, you're being termed a good wife. Oh, our wife is so good, our wife never complains, our wife is so nice. But beneath all of that accolades and that praises that they're giving you, and you're asking, are you happy? Is it okay? We go back, we are dying in silence, but then outside we're portraying that good woman aspect. So I one of those aspects, that again, talking about that igniting consciousness, Nelly, was the lesson that being submissive does not mean that I do not have a voice. Being submissive does not mean that I cannot be assertive, or I cannot say no or yes when I mean to. Being submissive did not mean that I cannot protest, or I cannot object to people's opinion, or even my in-laws opinion, or whoever's opinion. So I was naive. And so for so many years, I kind of gave away my voice. The man was the decision maker, which again, this is where I tend to, if you call it blame, yes, I focused that lens back onto me and said, I blame myself. I blame myself for actually selling away my voice. There are some certain times that somebody will give you the opportunity to speak up, or give you the opportunity to express yourself. But if we don't have the capability or the confidence to express ourselves, are we going to turn and blame that person? No, we're going to turn and blame ourselves. But I don't blame myself in a negative way. I turn the lens on me to say, you know what? Even if I was not assertive, or I did not know how to be assertive, now I can learn to be confident. Now I can learn to be assertive. Being a submissive woman does not mean I lose my voice. No. So yes, Nelly, sorry.
Yes.
I'm so passionate about this, because to
I
be
think,
honest with you,
yeah,
yeah,
why I tell people not to blame themselves is because you don't know what you don't know.
yes,
But then you need to take the responsibility, because when you keep on blaming others without looking within yourself, that's where the
mhm,
problem is. Because you
yeah,
continue to be in denial and be pointing fingers at other people, not yourself, because we attract what we are. So
yes,
if you are an angry person, you attract those who make you even much angrier. So look within, that what have you contributed? And it is
yes,
only at that time, when you ignite that consciousness, that
yes,
you are giving yourself permission.
yeah,
You are giving yourself permission to change your narrative. And I
yeah,
think that takes us nicely to reconnect with your identity.
absolutely,
Yes.
a massive one.
So like Peggy, you were talking about losing your identity when you were being submissive, because that's what we grew up knowing, that as a woman you need to be submissive, as a man you are the provider, you are the
Mhm.
head of the house, you make the decisions and things like that.
Yeah.
And then when like women start having children, it even gets worse because they're not just a housewife, they are a mother, they have children to cater for, they are mostly the primary caregivers for their children. And you just lose the sense of who you really are, because then you focus on these other responsibilities that you have. And then
Mhm.
when you ask, like in so many cases, when I mean, I'm so curious, and I ask so many odd questions because I just want to know how people are thinking, how what people are going through, and then I chip in my own little help. So
Yeah.
I know from my experience being a mother for so many years, I would leave my house to go to the shop that I want to get even a bra or a knickers for myself. But then when I go, I'll be in the shop probably for hours. The unfortunate thing is, I'll come back home and realize that I got things for the children for the house, but nothing for myself. And I've talked about this with other mothers, other parents, and they're doing exactly the same thing. And that is how we start chipping away our identity, because a lot of us, we don't even remember the things that we used to like. And that is gradually how we are losing our identity.
Mhm.
So, is to take that step, which is to reconnect with your identity, is to give yourself space. So, it's linked with the first one, to give yourself that space. And just like what Emmeline said, is for us to unlearn what we have learned, because all of these are things that we have learned. And for us to make the change, we need to unlearn them and start from scratch, because we will realize that our parents taught us what they knew, our community influenced us the way they knew. But now we are in a state where what we know, is that serving us? Is that not serving us? Are we just going to be submissive and being manipulated and being hurt because that is what we know? So
Yeah.
I go back to Emmeline's point that we need to unlearn what we have
Yes.
learned, because we realize that all that we think is reality, we have been
Yeah.
fooled.
Yeah.
We have been
Absolutely.
fooled. So we need to unlearn. So
Absolutely.
let me just read what Emmeline has said, that blaming oneself is not a bad idea. It's more about self examination, dropping the negatives and picking up the positives. Self blame is bad when you wallow. Sorry, my eyes are not too good, so I'm struggling to see my screen, but I just want to read this, Emily. So self-blame is bad when you wallow in that blame for too long. Yes, use that
Yes.
as a lesson and use it as a way forward. Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly what we're talking about. So when you blame yourself, is you taking that responsibility, that to realize that what did you contribute in what
Yes.
you are experiencing. Because a lot
Yeah.
of the times we say that that person is to blame and me, I am pure, I did not do anything wrong, which that's denial. So when you blame yourself, take that responsibility and don't go about the problem for such a long
Mhm.
time. Shift
Yeah.
to solutions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Emily.
Absolutely.
That was powerful.
Yeah. Absolutely. So what Emmeline said that is so so powerful, because you know, Nelly, in my role of supporting as a domestic abuse practitioner, if I tell you the majority of people, or of women or even men that I support, The majority of the ones that are stuck in the same cycle are the ones that do not want to accept responsibility. They're the ones that they have the victim mindset, right? The victim mindset is that mindset of saying everybody is wrong except me. Or we're always pointing finger. You did me this, you did me that, you did me that. Without actually self-examining yourself, but what is your own thing that you did? And just like Emmeline said, self-examination or self-blame is not a bad thing. It's a tool for me. It's a catalyst. Some, if you read my book, every chapter that I write in my book, I draw the lens back to me. Because for me, when I draw that lens towards me, it's an empowerment. It's a way that I'm empowering myself. So going back to the point where you talk about finding your identity, in my book, I think the first letter, the
Yeah.
second letter was the I, which is the A, accept responsibility. Nelly, it and one of the way that I started rebuilding my confidence was to accept full responsibility for my life and my happiness. And when you choose to accept responsibility for your life and happiness, that means you're saying that, you know what, life happens. I don't, yes, things have happened in the past. People have hurt me, or maybe I made certain choices, or maybe people made certain choices that hurt me. But here, where I am at this moment, I choose to move forward. And so I'm accepting full responsibility for my life and my happiness. I'm not going to blame anybody. I'm not going to blame. And if, in fact, if by any means I would thank people who led me to go through what I went through, because without them, I wouldn't have been who I am today. I always see that as a gratitude. In fact, I am so grateful to them. Maybe they don't even realize it. Maybe that's why sometimes I see them, I'm always happy, and they're wondering, why is this woman always happy? No, it's because I am grateful. I am happy because what I went through, it made me a better person. And so I am accepting full responsibility for my life and happiness. I'm not going to sit there blaming anybody. That is their own decision. If they want to improve their own self and work on their own self, that is their business. But for me, I choose to rebuild my confidence. I choose to unlearn my beliefs and relearn new one. I choose to become a better me, because I'm not only doing it for me, I'm doing it for my children so that they don't go down that route as well. So, yes, Nelly, as you said, finding your identity is very important. And before you find that identity, you need to, first of all, have a mindset of accepting your life, that now going forward, I choose to move forward. That is where you find, because when you accept when you accept full responsibility of your life and your happiness, that is where you start seeing your value. Just like Nelly said, when you go to the shop, you're not just going to buy for children and buy for your house. You're going to buy for yourself as well, because you want to be happy. You value yourself. You know, there were times in my life, Nelly, that even me sitting without doing anything, I feel guilt. I couldn't sit and just watch TV without feeling guilt, So, but today, because I value myself, I can, even if I sit for the whole day and do nothing, that is what I've decided not to. So it's about valuing yourself and valuing your happiness. So that is another way you build confidence. Because when you value
Yes.
yourself and know your identity, any man that walks into your life, Lily, you're not going there as a bargaining chip. You're not going into that new relationship. What did I do? Nelly, can you see me?
Yeah. Yeah, I can see you.
Yeah. Something just happened. I don't know. So you're not going into that relationship as a lesser factor. You're not going into that relationship as a victim. You're not going into that relationship as if you're desperate. No, you're walking into that new relationship with your shoulders high, because you know who you are. You know your identity. You've learned your lessons. You know you've learned empowering belief. And when you sit on that table with that new partner, Nelly, I think your language is going to be different. And that is where you
Yeah.
start to spot all those signs, those red flags straight away, because you yourself, you're a better version. Sorry, I can talk for England, but Nelly, I'll
Yeah,
leave you to.
I
Yeah,
mean, you've mentioned just so many points. I know we have so many points to go through. I just want to
yeah,
talk again on reconnect with your identity. So,
yeah,
as adults, we are told that as an adult, you don't have to do this or you don't have to do that because you are an adult. And I say those are all masks that we put on. So,
yeah,
to reconnect with your identity, you need to start focusing on the things that you enjoy doing, which is linked to
yeah,
your purpose. So I'll
yeah,
give an example with myself when I started reconnecting with my identity. So I did not know for so many years that I could dance, that I even like dancing. But when
mm,
I started reconnecting with myself, there was a day I went for a party and I was on the dance floor. I couldn't even believe that I was on the dance floor. And I was on the dance floor from when the music started, when the dancing started, till when I was leaving. And I came back, I could not believe myself. And I kept thinking that where did this dancing come from? Because even my steps, I was like, anyway, as time went on, I would sit, I would just want to dance. Even if I go to an occasion, if I'm the only one on the dance floor, I will dance as if the dance floor is full. In my house, I will put on music and I will dance. So when my children notice that I was just dancing, sometimes it will be like a Saturday morning when I'm not working, I will dance alone until I'll be sweating. When my
mm,
children, the first times that my children noticed, they came and they were like, Mom, are you drunk? I'm like, seriously? This is just early morning. Why would I be drinking? And by the way, if I drink alcohol, I don't drink much. So why would you be asking me if I'm drunk? They will say, "Oh, but how can you just be dancing alone and you are so?" I'm like, Just leave me. There's something going on in my life." So they notice for so many times, and they're like, "Oh, that's just mom." And now I just realized that if I go even on the street, if they play that music that touches me in the right spot, I don't mind it. I dance on the street, and my children are like, "Mom, you're embarrassing us." I'm like, so now they are just used to, and that's something that I grew up with. And I've just remembered that I am a very playful person. And
mm,
when it comes to the time to play, I play like there's no tomorrows. So those are the kind of things that give me joy. And that is
yeah,
me reconnecting with my identity. Because when I don't like it when things are serious, though sometimes I can be very, very serious. But even
mhm,
if I'm passing on an information, I like to pass it in an informal way because that is how I understand, that is how my brain works. So for you, is to identify or is to reconnect yourself with your identity, whatever it is, and go back, reflect on when you were a child. What were
mhm,
those things, or what was that thing that
yeah,
you used to do? Even if it was raining, you would concentrate and do it, or you could do it for hours and hours. You'll not even feel hungry. You'll be called, but you won't even really want to attend to that. Just think about it because that is where your identity lies. That is
yeah,
linked to your purpose as well.
yeah. Absolutely. And Nelly, before we move to the jump to the second point, I'm conscious of time as well. I just want to say that your identity, like Nelly said, is your purpose or who you are, whichever identity that you've identified yourself with. But when you go through a relationship, a challenging relationship, or difficult or abusive relationship, the abuser in that relationship would have created certain identities about you. They would have labeled you with names, called you all kinds of names, horrible names that throughout the relationship, they say when you call someone, when you tell a lie for so long, that lie begins to turn like truth in the eyes of some people, even in your own self. So that person may have labeled you with all kind of horrible names, and that those names may have started changing your perception of who you are. So when you come out of that relationship, you're still battling. The voices in your head are still calling those names that that person used to call you with. And if they are nasty names, those are the names that sometimes, even when you want to move on, that name is ringing in your head. You're useless. You are this. You are that. You are that. So again, it is very, very important to first of all identify all of those labels, those negative labels that you were given while in that relationship. And you need to understand that those are not your identity, they are not your name, they are not who you are. We need to find, and this is one of the things that we need to find healing, first of all, by rejecting those names, because that is not who we are. Because once you start unlearning those beliefs and start rejecting those names, then it begins to show you the better real who you are in your personality. And just like Nelly said, sometimes when you hook onto your purpose, that is where your light comes on. For me, my purpose was, I did not know that I could write. I did not know that I could speak. I could not know that I could. So when I started reconnected with my purpose, and when I went out there and I spoke to people, and you could see the way they were being, they were encouraged. Nelly, for me, all of those names that people used to call me, or they used to call that, those label that they gave me, that is when I started saying, hang on, Peggy, those labels is their labels, it's not my label. So again, it's very, very important that we need to unlearn those labels, detach ourselves from those labels, and embrace who we really are. In that way, it's going to
Ex-
give us that urge to move forward and build that confidence faster.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And just in addition, because all these things are interconnected, but we
Yeah,
decided to split them up because though they are interconnected, they are significantly different. So just
yeah.
moving on to the next point that we've talked about certain aspects is prioritizing self-care and self-compassion. You need to
Yes,
love yourself because
yes.
imagine, how can you love someone else when you don't love yourself? That's just
Mm,
pretense. And that's what a lot of us do because we want to be in that loving relationship, but then we are holding grudges with the other
yeah.
person. Like now, you see a lot of couples when they're outside, they are like holding hands, but then when they get in the car to go back home, no one is talking to each other and probably for weeks and months. But when they're outside, so why would you allow yourself to be going through
Mm,
that? So you need to prioritize your self care because if you put boundaries that, listen, I will not be pretending in front of the public because that is your public self. Whereas
yeah.
your private self, you know, the wee hours of the morning when it is quiet, when that's the
Mm,
time you are meant to have the best sleep. But then thoughts keep on going through your head and you can't sleep. That is when you realize what your true self
mhm.
is expecting from you. Not the public self, because it's easy to put on a drama, but
Yeah.
then listen to yourself when you are in that quiet moment by yourself. That is the information that comes from your true self. What do you
Mhm.
need to do? Because we know what we don't want, but because we want acceptance, approval from other people, we just force ourselves. And that is not self care. So you need to prioritize your self care. Love yourself passionately to
Mhm.
say, if you don't want to be treated this way, then you don't treat other people that same way because if you can hurt, the other person can hurt as well. So if there is any negative around it, then put a stop. Don't do it to yourself or to other people. That's all part of self-care and compassion. There are just so many different things that you can do.
Absolutely. And being your self-care also need is also about not just the physical care, it's about the emotional care. What are the thoughts that you think of you? The way you talk to yourself, the way you the thoughts that you're thinking about you. that is a way of giving yourself self-care. Because if you think yourself as on the negative side, then you're not taking care of yourself, right? So this is the moment where you say, you know what, it's okay to feel sad, but I'm not going to feel sad like this the whole day. Yes, it's good to express emotion. It's good to even make mistake. There's sometimes that you can even laugh at your own self. There are many times that Nelly, I laugh. I'll do something that I'll tell something, I'll call myself and say, you stupid girl. But then I laugh about myself, and then you move on. So it's about self-care. It's about your thought, your emotions, every part of you before the physical side, which is also important. So yes, learn to take care of yourself, because that is valuing yourself. And when you start taking care of yourself, you're teaching your children about self-care as well. Your children start to see, what it means to take care of their self as well. So this is very, very important. So yeah, Nelly,
Yeah.
next
So
point.
I run emotional well-being workshops, and what I say, just linking to the point you've mentioned, Peggy, is about self-talk. So
Yes.
one of the strategies that I give to people is start monitoring the words that come out from your mouth, whether you
Yes.
are addressing yourself or others, because it's a reflection of your state of mind. So
Yeah.
just speaking on Peggy, what she said, that I'm stupid, it depends on the context of the stupidity, because
Yes.
sometimes it might be a laughable stupidity, and sometimes it could be real stupidity, the negative side of it. So
Mhm.
similar to Peggy, sometimes I'm just like, oh no, what is up with you? Because sometimes I just laugh at myself, because
Yeah.
there are things that I do, because sometimes I just act without even thinking. And then at such moments, I'm like, oh, I've made another mistake. And I just laugh over it. And I say, you know what? My life is full of mistakes. But the good thing is, I learn from those mistakes and do things a different way. So then I don't need to do those same mistakes. So
Yeah.
in achieving that, we'll move to the next point, which is setting small, empowering goals. A lot of the times we think that building confidence or making that change means that we just need to take a massive step at once. No, that will lead you to failure. For you to
Mm.
achieve confidence, or to it starts with, for you to achieve confidence or to take action, is to start with small, simple steps. For instance,
Yeah.
if you are that kind of a person who sits in the house with your blinds closed because probably you are depressed and things like that, start by getting up in the morning and opening your blind. That is a
Mm.
small step that some other people, it means nothing, but to you it's
Yeah.
massive, because you have woken up, you've opened your blind, probably go down, go and make a cup of tea, have a bath or a shower and things like that. Take small steps at a time. And when you
Mm.
take those small steps, remember to praise yourself that I've done it. What I say to participants who attend my workshop is give a pat on your back and say,
Yeah.
I've done it, or I did.
Mm.
Because you need to praise yourself. If you do something expecting others to praise you, I'm sorry, you'll be disappointed. So praise yourself. And if some other person wants to praise you, that's just a bonus, because you've already praised yourself.
Absolutely. That is so powerful, Nelly. I remember the first day that when my relationship broke down, and of course, me and the kids were moved to a new town where, of course, I had to start life from scratch. If you know what that means, really start life from scratch. The too few weeks, the few weeks, like say 6 or 8 weeks, I tell you, it was tough. It was tough because, like I said, the emotion, I was going through the emotions, I was going through all the everything that was happening and all of that. And I was just crying and crying and crying. Just as you're talking about setting goals, after I had and ignite my consciousness, and I decided, the first thing that I did was that every day I said to myself that up to today, I still have that my book. They said my little green book. I bought a little green book that every day I will set one goal, one thing that I will do that day. And if it is just meant me dressing nice and going somewhere, I will do it and go, even without the money, because back then I was even struggling to even feed, you know. But then I said to myself that when I drop my kid in school, I will just go somewhere, whether maybe just go to a shop or just go window shopping, but I will make sure that I dress well, I wash myself, I put on a little makeup, I put my lipstick on. At least I'll intentionally say, you know what, I'm gonna put a smile on my face that day. I'm gonna go out, walk like somebody who is happy, like everything is fine. And like they say, you fake it until you make it, Nelly. That's how I started. And every day when I drop my kid, before I go to drop there in the morning, I've already woken up, I was even doing exercise, even though I was thin. In fact, stress made me to lose so weight, but that was unhealthy weight. So I decided I get up in the morning, I started reading and all of that. If I tell you, just by doing those little steps, little goals, every single day, it transformed my life. It transformed my life. And it did not just transform my life, it transformed the life of other women who were also going through that same situation. When I went to workshop, like recovery workshop, the way I will speak, they'll wonder that why are you talking as if nothing is happening to you? I said, because I have decided to speak this way. So you can see that you put a smile on the face of another person just by putting a smile on your own face. It's not just about you, it's about other people who are also counting on you, and even your children who are counting on you as well. So, yes, Nelly, like you say, it's about building small goals, small step, micro win. And when you achieve one step, come back and pat yourself on the back and even celebrate. If you can drink tea, drink the tea. If you can drink your small wine, if you can afford a wine to drink, drink it. Say well done, because those are accumulated step by step, one step. When you bring it together, it makes that full journey. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very powerful. Thank you so much. So the next step that I'll talk about is rebuild your support network. This is
Mm,
a very, very tricky one because, like in our community, our support network can be very, very damaging.
mhm.
Because when it comes to aspects of marriage breakdown, people don't want to offer support. They'll prefer you, they'll advise you to just stay in the marriage and things like that. And from my example, when I was struggling, I knew that I was struggling, my children were struggling. I
Mhm.
went to some, like in a community, there are some people that you respect. I
Yeah.
went there to ask for help and I felt rejected and I regretted why I even went there. So I knew, or I made my decision that I am all on my own.
Mhm.
And I went inwards because now I just wanted the courage to do what I knew I wanted to do to save myself and to save my children. So
Mhm.
when you want to rebuild your support network, be very careful because there are
Yeah.
some who will push you into the difficulties that you want to come out of. If you don't have a support network, or if you don't trust the people that you have in your support network, don't push yourself to them because you will not build that confidence that you want.
Mhm.
You can associate yourself with like-minded people, like group of people who have gone through similar experiences as you. Seek professional help. They will direct
Mhm.
you where the other people who have gone through similar experiences where you can grow. Because in
Yeah.
actual fact, you grow within yourself and not externally. When you
Yeah.
grow within yourself, like confidence within yourself, it comes outside and not the other way around. So it's to be very mindful. Build a support network with people that you can trust. people who understand your language, people who understand what you are experiencing, and people who
Mhm.
can support you to move to the next stage of your life.
Yeah. That is so powerful, Nelly. Very, very important because again, sometimes when we come out of that situation, the temptation sometimes is to fall back on the networks that we had. And if you look at it, majority of those networks would have been the negative ones, the ones that are criticizing, the ones that are blaming you, the ones that are always like they don't see the good out of you. So it is very, very important that it like I've shared in my book, there are times that we think that we have friends until something happens. There were periods in my life when everything was going all right in that relationship. I had a lot of, people that I called friends. When they say, hey, I've already answered. And then you're thinking that when you are in that difficult situation, these are the same people that will step forward and even offer you that supportive hand. But I was so disappointed. I was so disappointed. Some of them, they did not even want to get involved. No, I don't want to get involved. They say between man and woman, no, don't put your mouth inside. But again, it's not about putting your mouth inside. It's just about asking me, hey, how are you doing? How are you coping? Simple, just simple things like that. So for me, again, like you say, it's very important to actually scrap, even if it means scrapping your network, scrap that old network and rebuild new ones. And just like Nelly say, it's about reconnecting with like-minded people, people who understand your pain. For me, I started rebuilding that network when I started attending a recovery workshops. I connected with other women because that is where I noticed that it was not just me. Do you know there are some certain things that happen sometimes you feel that maybe this thing is only happening to me. But when you start associating, with other people, you hear their experiences, you hear what they are saying. It was like, oh my God, that means it's not just me. It's not just me. So that is when you start connecting with like-minded people where you can show true empathy, knowing that you really understand what they're going through and they also understand what you're going through. So don't be ashamed.
Yeah.
Don't be ashamed to step out there and build new empowering network, because I tell you, that is a strong element to rebuilding your confidence faster. Your cheerleaders, you need to look for cheerleaders, people who will cheerlead you, people who will say, you know what, it is okay. People who will say, you know what, even though you made mistake, you know what, I still love you for who you are. I will still cheerlead you. So you need to find those people in your life. And your network as well. This is why I always say, another thing that I want to point out, Nelly, is that there are some people that are very scared to create new networks, that they focus on their children, they use their children as their network, and they end up how can I put it, they end up choking their children, if you get what I mean. They end up choking their children, because when you create networks, positive networks, you that is where you go to vent out. If you want to say something or discuss anything, how you're feeling, you go to your network, adult network. But if you don't create those network and there is a need for you to express maybe an emotion or an anger or a frustration, and you don't have that network, who are the people you're going to rely on? Your children. You're going to start expressing those feelings, those emotions to your children, and maybe your children are also dealing with their own difficulties. You don't want to overpower them with your own yes, it's good to chat, it's good to express, but don't don't make your children your support network, because when you make them your support network, you're gonna be pouring out your emotions on them when maybe those children actually need somebody to rely on or fall back on as well. Nelly, I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe from your perspective, you can add a little bit on that if you think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, expressing emotions or expressing adult narration to
Mhm.
children is very, very damaging. And like I said, just at the start, it's
Yes.
really affecting the children because they don't understand adult issues and they
Yeah.
are struggling with themselves. So then taking adult issues and explaining to the children, and worst of it, when it's very negative, it's not
Yeah.
helping the children. So this fits in nicely with our last point, for you to reframe
Yeah.
your story. Reframe the story that you have got. And this is in the process for you to rebuild confidence. So if you have been the person who has been blaming others, playing the victim game, take a step back to find out what you have been contributing in that relationship.
Mm.
Then you need to reframe, change the story you have been telling yourself first. Because you don't, if you go and you're telling people that, oh, they did that, but I did nothing, I was just, you are fooling yourself. You need
Yeah.
to reframe that story. If you have been the one playing the victim role, take a step back and ask yourself, why am I playing that role? What
Mm.
would I benefit from that role?
Yeah.
I want to stop that role because it's not helping me. I keep on going over the same problems. Now I want to change and look at solutions. What
Yeah.
do I need to look for? What do I want? So then all these points that we've talked about will just fit in nicely somewhere. So reframe the story.
Yes. Absolutely. Reframe the story is absolutely very, very important. And I always say one thing is that when on your journey of rebuilding confidence, don't be focused on what the other person is saying. Be focused on what you yourself knows about you. That is how you reframe your story. Is that's where you say whatever thing they've said or the names they've called you, that is not who you are. You want to rewrite your story of who you are. And it's very important to rewrite that story, not just for you, but for our children. We want to have a different legacy. We want to create a different legacy. Yes, maybe we had made mistake or maybe things happen and all of that. We've learned the lesson. We've taken the lesson. And now what do we do with that lesson? So it is what we do with the lesson that is very, very important. So
Yeah.
these are steps that we take to build our confidence. Like Nelly have said, first of all, number one, you need to find a space to heal. Find a space to heal. Give yourself time to heal. Detach yourself. If it means detaching yourself, detach yourself and find that space to heal. And it's about igniting that consciousness where you say, you know what, I've had enough of this. I want this for myself. The second point we've talked about is finding your identity. Who are you? You are not the people, you're not the names that people have called you, you're not the label that people have labeled you. Who are you? Until you find who you are, that is where your journey of rebuilding your confidence becomes even easier and faster. We've talked about self-care. Nelly have talked about we need to practice self-care. Care for ourselves emotionally, physically, psychologically. Let's not feel guilty about caring. Self care does not mean selfishness. No. Self care just means you love you. And until you love you, nobody else is going to love you. You need to show yourself. You cannot give what you don't have. When you care for yourself, you love yourself. That is what you can give others. And even in the relationship that you're moving into, you need to care, heal before you even think of moving into another relationship. Because if you don't heal and learn how to take care of yourself, that relationship that you're going into, I bet you will not be able to take care of yourself even in that relationship. And that cycle of abuse is going to continue. So learn to take care of yourself. We've talked about, Nelly have talked about connect with supportive network. Even if it means erasing or disconnecting from those negative community or network that you had, you can do so for your mental sanity. Sometimes it's even good to there. It is not a crime to block certain people if by doing so will actually speed up your healing, right? So you need to do that for yourself. Reconnect with like-minded people, people who understand you and people who understand your story and your journey, that they can help you to heal faster, as well as you can also help them to heal. So it has to be that click, that connectivity of like-minded people. And Nelly talked about we need to reframe our story. Yes, change the narrative. The narrative that people have known about you is not who you are. You can rewrite your story in a way that you will leave a lasting legacy. It is not where you're coming from that matter. It's where you're going to and how that journey is going to end. That is what matters. So
Yeah.
I think that summarizes what with those five key points of us rebuilding our confidence. And like we say, when you rebuild your confidence, you will change every aspect about you. You will actually look yourself like Nelly. Nelly goes today everywhere and she dance because she has rebuilt her confidence. She's a confident woman. That's why she would dance without even caring whether who is looking or who says what. She's just expressing herself in who she is. And that is how we need to also do rebuild our confidence. And we don't care what people say. Let's just be who. Life is short. Life is so short to sit and thinking about what are people going to say, what are the community going to say, what. No, life is so short. If you wake up today and somebody said to you that, Peggy, you have 24 hours to live, how are you going to live that 24 hours? That is how we need to start viewing things. Yeah. So Nelly, I don't know whether you have something else before we round up.
I think we might talk about this in a different session, but I think this session has been really, really good
Yes.
because we need to raise awareness on certain things. But what I would suggest that we do at the subsequent session is talk
Yes.
about emotional detachment, because in my role as a social worker, I have worked on many domestic abuse cases where either the man or the woman would say, you know what, this relationship has ended and that other person has taken my life with them. So it's for us to learn to detach emotionally. Because
Yes.
when you go through an abusive relationship, it doesn't mean that you will not see that person anymore. Though,
Yes.
I mean, let me not go into it. So we will talk about that some other time, how to emotionally detach from a relationship. So for
That.
me, Peggy has rounded that up very nicely. And I just want to thank you all for watching. For those of you who will watch after, please share your comments with us. I'm just so appreciative of Emmeline for her massive contribution that she's made. And if you put any comments, Peggy and myself will read through and also comment if it's something that we will need to comment. But yes, we are here. We don't want to be just the two of us talking and sharing our experiences. We want to learn as well, because some things that we are doing or some of the actions that we are taking, probably if we hear from you, we might make some adjustments, because this life is all about learning and improving and growing. So thank you
Yeah.
so much and have a nice rest of your Tuesday evening or whatever time it is. Thank you
Yeah.
so very much and remain blessed.
Thank you so much. Thank you, our viewers, for watching. And we will see you again in 2 weeks' time. Nelly has already proposed a wonderful topic, and we're going to be discussing about it. In fact, we're going to be speaking raw from the heart, how we emotionally detached from the relationship. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you again in 2 weeks' time. We love you. Take care of yourself and keep growing, keep rebuilding your confidence, and keep being a better person. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Stand for